What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Josh here, aka Joshumusprime, for episode 5 of Joshumusprime. A day in the life of Joshumusprime. You're gonna see basically today I do some deadlifts. It's finals week over at the college that I'm going to, so all the professors handed out some exams. I'm working on my novel still, and then I have a rant towards the very end, just about random stuff. So stick around if you want to listen to me rant about random stuff. If not, enjoy the footage. See ya. All right, so just finished up with classes today. All the professors gave out the final exams. Most of the exams are take home, which is weird because the first degree that I got, there were no take home exams. It was all, but this is a state college and it's not, I don't know, it's not really for anything super important. So I still have some writing to do and gonna do some deadlifts. I spoke to Suze. She's not going to be able to attend the deadlift session. She's gonna do her own. So if I can hook up with the boys from the gym, then I will. If not, it'll be just me. I went real heavy last week, so it's gonna be real light, and for the rest of the month I'm just gonna be going real light. So there's not gonna be, it's not gonna be something big, but I'll show some footage of that. Other than that, I'm sitting here waiting and listening to the draft of a couple sections of my novel. Just trying to get a feel for the areas that need to be reworked, and that's it. All right, I'll catch you guys after the workout. Okay, so here, this was a deadlift session. Like I said in the previous clip, I was not going heavy today. This is warm-ups with the trap bar. It's probably my third warm-up. I usually do, well, actually fourth. I start with just the bar, then I work one plate at a time up. But I only work to 3 plates because, like I said, I'm going light that day. I really love trap bar deadlifts because they're just a great accessory to both deadlifts and squats. Here I'm doing my first warm-up set with the actual deadlift bar. And as you can see, very lightweight, but I'm also taking what's called a sumo stance. And the reason for that is because my heavy lifts, I do conventional. So for all of my accessory lifts, particularly my warm-ups, I try to go much wider to either a box squat or a snatch grip deadlift, or even sometimes, as you're seeing, sumo deadlifts. So pretty sure most of the rest of the deadlifts that I did this day were all sumo. Oh yeah, look at that sexy underwear. Yeah, there you go. Get it, girl. But now, some of you may wonder, why do I wear short shorts and hike them up even higher during deadlifts? It's so that they don't get in the way. Because if they do get in the way, they'll either prevent you from getting the full deadlift, which on light days, it's not a big deal. On light days, the main problem is you don't want the deadlift bar to snag on your shorts and then pull them down. So there you go. If you see a lot of dudes wearing deadlift diapers, which is basically them hiking their shorts up so it looks like a diaper, that's why they're doing it. It's so that they don't catch a snag. This, I may have gone out of order, but we're starting to work up to heavier weight. This is about 275 right there. And that's probably my first working set. And some of these are probably jumping here. I don't know if I recorded every single set. I tried to, though, so that you guys, all of my followers can see exactly what I do. This is one of the areas that I've talked about a lot, but I don't usually show a lot of footage, which is my workouts. But for these episodes, the day in the life of Joshumusprime, I'm really just trying to show you guys exactly what I do, including my workouts. Now, I can't exactly see, but I think this is probably one of the heavier sets that I did, but by no means heavy. as you're working up, I think this day was supposed to be sets of 5. It's 3 or 4 sets of 5. Yeah, and that one I've got about 375 pounds on there. And so what I wanted to do, and here I'm actually lifting conventional, it looks like. What I wanted to do was I wanted to do it on a deficit, which means taking a plate or a box and standing on that. And what that does is it helps your mobility, helps increase flexibility. And it's a really good thing to do with your light weights, because then it will transfer over to your heavy weights when it's easier to reach the bar. Problem is, I could not find a deficit that would work for me, so had to do it regular. Now what you see here, this is what I call Dante's Inferno. This is one of my favorite burnout exercises. It's something I've created. I'm sure there are people who have done other stipulations of this. And essentially what you do is you take the bar, you put lightweight on it, usually 135 pounds, that's what I got. Sometimes you can do a little bit more, 225. I wouldn't recommend anything more than that. And you start from a sumo stance, and then you work your way down into a super narrow stance. And so the reason why I call this Dante's Inferno is because if you're familiar with the Divine Comedy, the hero has to basically descend down into hell, face his challenges, and then rise back up. And so what I do, you're only seeing the descent right now. I'm descending into hell. And I tell you what, once you get to you can see right there, like I'm dying already. This is super cardio. Once you get to the narrow stance, your heart is thumping through your throat. And then what you do, and I did do this, I don't know if this clip shows it, maybe it will. Then you do the ascent. You climb back out of hell. So you go back from narrow, then into conventional, then into a snatch grip, then into box squat, then into sumo deadlift. And then that completes one cycle of Dante's Inferno. I have done this before where I've completed 2 cycles, and I think if I really killed myself, I could do 3. But I'll tell you what, doing just 1 or 1.5 is really good enough for most days. If you're looking for cardio that is not traditional, meaning jogging on the treadmill or doing sprints or doing the elliptical, this will get your heart just racing. It's highly recommended. And the first time I would go super light. If you're a female, because my wife does these with me too, you can use the bouncy weights and do like a 10 or a 25, depending on your strength level, and that'll simulate the same thing. And you want to talk about some serious cardio. It is absolutely nuts. As you can see, I'm huffing and puffing. Sweat is dripping into my eyes. It's just crazy. And that was pretty much the workout for this day. Minus a couple other, sets, but that's pretty much what I did. Now this is me just showing you the beautiful views that I have on the college campus. And last little slide is my new dog. This is Ginger, aka Gingerbread. She's just getting comfortable with the house. Okay, so it's a beautiful, beautiful morning here in Palm Beach Gardens. It's about 60 something, I think the high is 70 something. I love this kind of weather. It feels like a typical fall kind of weather, but for those of you who haven't lived in Florida, or maybe it's been a long time, it's strange because there's not many leaves on the ground. There's palm trees and everything's still green, but it feels like fall weather. Today, I have a couple things going on. I gotta finish up editing the video from yesterday. I will be continuing my editing for the novel that I'm working on right now. And I'm in this kind of awkward stage where I have 90,000 words written, but I have to go back and I have to reorganize some of the scenes, which is normal for any novel. I have to figure out, well, I've already kind of identified some areas where this could be fleshed out. This needs to be whittled down. This area doesn't make sense. So the reason why I say it's awkward is because I don't want to do too many detailed edits or changes until I go through and identify most of those pit holes, because anybody that's ever written a story before knows that if you go into it and you don't have or how can I put this, if you fail to identify a pitfall or something, right, then what can happen is you write a bunch of stuff and then realize it either doesn't work for that part of the story, or there was a better idea or something that made more sense here, and now you have to do, there's a bunch of rewrites involved if you do it that way. So it's a smarter strategy to do a lot of the strategic part up front. Now, I usually do this one time in the beginning of the story, and the way I think about it, for those of you that don't write, it's kind of like going on a road trip. When you go on a road trip, you don't want to just go blind willy-nilly. You want to have a map with you, you want to have a GPS with you, and you want to have a pre-planned route, an idea of where you're going to go. But remember, writing a story is a journey, and it's not a trip, okay? A trip is somewhere like you've kind of been there before, you already know where you're going. This should be going into unknown areas, so you're plotting this out, but along the way, you may take pit stops, you may take detours, you may take the scenic route, and you may find that some areas that you had intended on going, you change your mind during the journey and go an alternate route. Maybe the road was closed, maybe you weren't feeling it that day, whatever the case may be. And that's very similar to the way that writing is. Once you get to the stage where I am, it's almost like you traveled from the East Coast to the West Coast, and now you're going from the West Coast back to the East Coast. You already kind of know what to expect because you've written most of the novel, but as you go back, you plan on visiting some places that you didn't before. So while you already know your route, you already know what places you enjoyed and what places you didn't, what places you're going to kind of avoid and remove from the trip this time, or the road, the itinerary. You have some new places that you want to go and check out. That's essentially, in a nutshell, what writers do as they're going back and forth through these drafts. And that's where I am. And the reason, again, why I say it's kind of awkward is because I really want to get into the details of the writing, of the editing, of the material that's already there, but I have to be very careful, because if I get too tunnel vision into that, then I'm not looking at the bigger picture of how, sorry, a motorcycle just drove by and kind of distracted me. I'm not looking at the bigger picture of the story, and I want to do that so that I get the biggest bang for my buck. And just to give you an example, I've already identified one or two areas where I'm going to add huge scenes, almost like an additional 10 to 20, maybe even 30,000 words, which is a bunch. Because after listening to some marketing strategies from some other booksellers, independent booksellers like myself, I've found that one of the best things you can do is release like a novella or a small novel, and then release your series or additional novels after that, and use the small novel as a kind of gateway drug into the universe and the characters. So I think that's the route I'm going to go. A lot of people have success with that, and I have enough story. I mean, this story probably lasts a lifetime. I could write about it forever. And I have another fantasy story that's weighs on my heart all the time. That's like my secondary big story. But anyways, so that's on the agenda today. I also have a business law class that I'm taking, and I may have mentioned this before, but for those of you who are entrepreneurs, small business owners, you're older like myself, you've been out in the world, but now you're focusing on your business, I highly recommend taking classes on business and entrepreneurship. Now, I don't know if all of them will be as good as the ones that I take here in Palm Beach, but from my experience, you get little gems of wisdom when you do this, because even though you're older and you may have some world experience, especially if you didn't grow up in like a business or entrepreneurial mindset, these classes get you thinking that way. They get you considering aspects that you never thought of before. And I know for me, business law was one of the best classes for that, in the sense that the only law that I was ever introduced to in my career up until this point has been military law and government law regarding how the military and government interact with its citizens, but never have I considered business law. And so when we started the company, Story Ninjas, and we set up the LLC, but also, we start working with clients, you start to question, like, is this something I need to be careful about? Do I need to have a contract for this? Do I need to, like, you have all these questions. And so the great thing about classes like business law is that they give you insight to things that you didn't know before. And for those of you who maybe really want to start a business, or maybe you already have, but you're not really sure if you're going about it the quote unquote right way, there is no right way. But I would highly recommend taking entrepreneurial classes, just because they can point you and steer you in the right direction and give you ideas, introduce you to people that are also in the same realm. But several of the classes I've taken here, Intro to Business, Planning the Entrepreneurial Venture, Entrepreneurship 101, a lot of those classes help you develop a business plan, and you do things like strategic analysis, feasibility studies, and what these allow you to do is really focus in, and they make you ask questions about your business to attack it from all angles and make sure you're not missing anything. You don't have a blind spot that's going to get you later on, or you're not considering. And two of the biggest things, because I think that business plans are important, especially if you intend on using that to go to a angel investor to get funds for your business. In that regard, it's a good way to say, here's what we do, and here's how you'll be able to make your money back, make your investment back. But as I'm driving, by the way, a little side point, as I'm driving, every once in a while you might hear this like little alarm thing go off, or I don't know. It's not the check engine light, but basically my air suspension had to be replaced, but they never fixed the button. They told me they couldn't. So now, every time I drive, after about 10 or 15 minutes, it goes off. It bothers the shit out of me. Side point. Okay, going back to what I was saying. But the two things that I found were really helpful were the strategic analysis, where I was able to sit down and look at other businesses that are doing what I'm doing and see like how my business is different from theirs, but also how it's similar, and what products are they selling? How are they doing that different than I am? And so by looking at it from those angles, it really gets you to thinking where you have a competitive advantage in the marketplace and where maybe you're in the same spot as other people. And then the last thing was developing a feasibility study. Now, I personally, we here at Story Ninjas, like we made the company a long time ago, and we looked at feasibility from our limited knowledge of at the time, and we felt it was a very feasible business, and we were right for sure. But I wish I had had that feasibility study in the beginning, because it asks questions that you don't think of before. And essentially, the feasibility study makes you take a look at your business and ask, is this really something that's worth the risk? Now, you're never going to know until you actually go into it, but you want to make an educated decision whenever you're going to make a risk, especially for those of us who have our families involved in this endeavor. You don't want to ever put your family at risk without having made an educated decision. And even if you make an educated decision, it could fall by the wayside. But the feasibility study allows you to weigh out certain factors, the pros and the cons, if you will. And in a sense, it allows you to, on a scale of, I think it was 1 to 5, but it could be 1 to 10, see how feasible your business is for you and for the market and compared to other people that are out there. So I think it's a very, because it not only looks at like your type of business and who your competitors are, but it also looks at you, the individual, and the people who are the co-founders, and what skill sets and abilities and knowledge and wisdom that they bring to the table. Because, for example, if say you were starting a law firm and everybody that you're co-founding with, they're all straight out of college and they don't have any real life experience, then under the experience section with how long have you been practicing college or how many clients have you had, it's gonna be really low. And so it's gonna identify a weak point in your business. And so then you could look at it two ways. You could say, well, maybe it's not feasible because we don't have a lot of experience to offer to our clients. Or you might take a look at it and say, who can we bring on board to our business to add that experience and that credibility and that authority? It's all, it just helps you ask better questions. And if you ask better questions, you'll get better answers for your business. Anyways, I guess that's the rant for this morning. Other than that, Susie and I are supposed to do deadlifts this afternoon. And I don't think I mentioned this yet, but we also started doing this thing called Pillow Talk. It's a podcast that she and I want to do for couples. And it's not necessarily relationship based, but having been together for 10 years and gone through a lot of stuff, we feel like it's something that we really want to, honestly, it's just something we really want to do, because most of the time when we're both get home in the evening, we sit down and we kind of go over our day. We go over our plans, our goals, interesting things, and we have these very fun conversations, and we feel as though some of the information might add value to other people, particularly couples who range from from very new couples all the way to people who have been together for a long time. And the reason why we say that is because both of us have been divorced, so we know what a failed relationship is like. But we've also, as I said, we've been together for 10 years. For 10 of those years, or within that time frame, for 2.5 to 3 years, we were separated because of military moves and things like this. So, and through that time period, we went through so many challenges. And I know some people who have been married for, say, 15, 20, 30 years are like, okay, Josh, good for you. You made it past the first decade. Whoop-de-doo. True, But you could be married for 30, 40, 50 years and never go through as many challenges as some people who have had just more life challenges. And we really feel, I don't feel like we've had like this terrible life or anything, but we definitely have been challenged more than the usual couple. And because we were able to make it through that, and sometimes I think because of those challenges, we were able to make it through that. We want to share that knowledge with other people who may be going through similar problems, particularly military couples, because a lot of our challenges came from being in the military, having to move around a lot, being away from family and things like that. So, the only reason I bring that up is because we'll probably do another episode tonight, and I'll start posting them soon. I've been kind of neglecting the podcasting because I've been doing this. All right, well, we'll see what the day has in store. Hope everybody else is having a good day today.